What if a letter, almost 2,000 years old, sent to a small, notoriously corrupt island, actually held a blueprint for solving some of our biggest problems today? Well, that's exactly what we're diving into, the New Testament's book of Titus.
So here's the big question we're tackling. What can this short, intense letter, written by the Apostle Paul to his trusted partner Titus, really teach us about navigating our own complicated world? The answers, well, they might just surprise you.
All right, so first things first, we've got to get the lay of the land. Paul sends Titus to the island of Crete, right off the coast of Greece. And let's be clear, this was no vacation. Crete had a serious reputation problem.
Now, this isn't just Paul trash-talking them. He's actually quoting one of their own famous poets, Epimenides, describing his own people. This was their reputation, from the inside out. I mean, we're talking about a culture in crisis.
Think about this. Their reputation was so bad that the actual Greek verb for to lie was kretizo, which literally means to act like a Cretan. The island was famous for its treacherous business deals and its mercenary soldiers. You had a culture that basically celebrated the deceptive, power-hungry character of its main god, Zeus, who they claimed was born right there on the island. This is the world Titus was walking into.
So Paul looks at his protege Titus and gives him this massive task. Go into this chaotic mess and bring some order to the new, struggling churches there. He had to help build a community that looked nothing like the culture surrounding it. Okay, so how on earth do you fix a problem like Crete? Paul's strategy was, well, it was radical. It didn't start with some big campaign or a fancy new building. Nope. It started with leadership.
So if the very first thing he tells Titus to do is find and appoint new leaders, elders, who live by a completely different code. The foundation for change wasn't about finding the most charismatic person or the most powerful. It was about finding the person with the most integrity.
And this is where things get really interesting when you compare different Bible translations. You've got the classic King James Version. It's formal, poetic. But then you look at the Message translation. It totally reframes the qualifications into these direct, practical questions. It's like a modern job interview checklist for character. You know what's amazing is how timeless this advice is. It doesn't matter if you're running a company, a nonprofit, or just your own family. True, lasting leadership starts with character. It's about honesty, accountability, and the proof that you actually live out your values at home, not just when people are watching.
Okay, so getting good leaders in place, that's step one. But it wasn't enough. Titus also had to deal with the bad ones. There was a huge problem brewing inside the churches, where influential teachers were twisting the message just to make a profit.
And again, the translation comparison here is it's brilliant. The King James Version warns against those teaching for filthy lucre's sake. Sounds like something out of Shakespeare, right? But the Message just cuts right through it. They're in it for the sake of a fast buck. It makes this ancient problem feel so immediate, so modern.
So once the leadership was being sorted out, the focus broadens. It shifts to the entire community. Paul's vision was for everyone, top to bottom, to live out a whole new way of life. And here's the key. The goal wasn't about winning arguments. It wasn't about seizing cultural power. It was about living in a way that was so different, so full of integrity, self-control, and kindness, that their non-Christian neighbors would look at them and find their message about God compelling. Their very lives were the sermon.
And that last part, the why, is so important. The King James gives the instruction, which is clear, but the Message translation just spells it out for us with that critical last line. We don't want anyone looking down on God's message because of their behavior. It explicitly connects their private conduct to their faith's public reputation.
So you might be wondering, what was supposed to power this radical new lifestyle? Paul points to one thing: grace. But his definition of grace is so powerful. It's not just, a get-out-of-jail-free card for your past mistakes. He sees it as this active, divine power, right here in the present, that literally teaches you and strengthens you to say no to the corrupt ways of the world and yes to a better way of life.
Now let's do something really interesting. Let's build a bridge from 1st century Crete all the way to 21st century America. This is where this ancient letter really hits close to home.
I mean, seriously, what does a letter about liars and corrupt leaders on some Mediterranean island have to say to us today? Well, as it turns out, a whole lot.
The parallels are they're stunning, really. In Crete, you had corrupt leaders who are all about money and power. Today, there's such a deep hunger for leaders with real integrity. Their public life was a culture of lies, of kretizo.
Our modern version can be a social media and political landscape that often rewards outrage more than understanding. They were known for being unruly and self-serving. Paul's call to be good neighbors is a direct challenge to a me-first culture. The parallels are pretty hard to ignore.
So what's the end game here? What's the ultimate goal? If grace is the power for this new way of life, where does that life actually lead? For Paul, it was never about escaping the world. It was about changing it from the inside out.
You know, it's wild. His advice wasn't for them to go build a compound and hide from society. It was the complete opposite. He called them to be the best citizens, the most reliable neighbors, the most constructive members of Cretan society. Their faith was meant to be a force for the common good, for everyone.
And what did that actually look like day to day? Respect authority, be law-abiding, slander no one, just imagine that in the age of social media, be peaceful, considerate, and gentle. Be known as the kind of people who are always ready to do good for the community. I mean, in a culture like Crete, and frankly, in a culture like ours, living this way is so profoundly countercultural, and it's deeply attractive.
And this quote from the Message, man, it just wraps up the entire letter into one beautiful, practical idea. The right response to experiencing God's transforming love is to simply be a good neighbor. It's a simple idea, right? But it has the power to change a community, an island, and maybe even our world.
So that's the final thought I want to leave you with. In a world that so often runs on division, outrage, and self-interest, what if the most radical, most compelling, and most transformative thing any of us can do is just follow this ancient blueprint and be a good neighbor?